we are live.
All right, thank you, Cody. I would like to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to do roll call. Okay. Are you going to do that, Teresa?
Okay, Lori.
Here.
Joycelyn.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Ron. We have a quorum.
Okay. All right. So we need to approve the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look over it? So I'll ask for a vote.
Yeah, make a motion that we approve the agenda. Michael?
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a second?
This is Joycelyn. I second.
Thank you. So our agenda has been approved.
Nope, then you got to vote.
Oh, now we have to vote.
Now you have to vote.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so the agenda has been approved. All right, so we also have our minutes from July 18th meeting. Right, and so then we have to have a motion to approve the minutes.
Lori, this is Joycelyn. I move to approve the minutes.
Right.
This is Michael. I'll second that.
So we'll have a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so the minutes have been approved. So we do have a budget amendment. And so Brian, are you going to mention that?
Sure, I could talk about that.
Brian's going to talk about that. The budget amendment is coming because that's on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting to change our budget for the year. And Brian, you want to talk about how it may or may not impact the budget?
Sure. So from the finance committee meeting, there's the recommendation to lower the levy by a couple of cents, 2.4 cents, and then also to cut 1.3 million from the current budget that we're in. And it was suggested in the finance committee meeting that there was about 200,000 in the technology budget that we could remove. And I wanted to talk about what those were, what those were and why we need them. And so I have like a quick spreadsheet, if that's okay to share. Cody, can I share real quick?
Yes, Brian, I've stopped sharing, so you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. So it's not very big over there. Can you share it to the projector somehow, Cody? No, I can make it quite a bit bigger.
There you go. That's okay. We can see it. Oh, yeah.
He's getting it over there too.
He's got it up there.
I need to make this one bigger.
There we go.
So the ones with the asterisks next to them are kind of the ones that were suggested. So I'll kind of just talk about those real quick. So general repairs, that line item is for just anything that needs a repair, like generators. We have HVAC units, servers that may be off warranty, just anything. That could be anything that we need repairs for. The next one,
More of an emergency fund for
Sure.
repairs, correct?
sure. Matching funds for grant related products is the next one. So a lot of the state grants and federal grants sometimes require, a lot of the state ones actually really do require you to match some of your own funds towards the grant. It's normally not very much. It's just a commitment that you're going to do the grant and follow through on it. And so that's what that line is for. So in case we need to match any funds, sometimes we do the tech, sometimes another department does the technology, like youth services will do like the early literacy stations that you see in the branches. So they'll take the tech grant instead of the IT department. And they'll match the funds out of their budget instead of us. So sometimes we use this fund and sometimes we don't. I sure hate to lose it. If we, I don't want to miss a grant because we don't have money to match. Miscellaneous contingency we use for wiring racks, power systems for racks, just tools. They have a lot of tools they need to punch down wires and make connections or work on PCs. It's all for that kind of stuff. And then the last one is this miscellaneous software for staff. That's just another catch-all if we need to get upgrades for people or for pieces of software that we need. The two budget motions that we're going to have for the training, for the staff training and the software switch on the public PCs would come out of this line. And you can see the numbers to the right, we've already spent some out of these categories already.
And do we have a line item of how much we've spent like last year?
Yeah, I have all the old spreadsheets with all that stuff out of there. So typically we don't spend these if we don't spend them. So if everything's fine with the generators and everything's fine with the HVACs and that kind of stuff, we don't spend it unless we need to. We have some other contingency funds in there too for you can see the one for the new replacement and upgrades. That's for laptops, printers, switches, all of that. So, and these are all the same numbers that I turned into back in May, I think, when we went over the budget then. They have not changed one bit, other than everything in green is stuff that we've spent from already. And stuff in yellow are things that are coming up. Yeah, so this is I just wanted to explain what those are. And there's about 350,000 there or 390,000 there in contingency funds. We have $8 to $8.5 million worth of technology infrastructure out there, and several thousand laptops and PCs and printers and digital signage, everything that it takes to run this. And one of the reasons why there's only 400,000 there and not more is because we've been going through the capital plan and we've been refreshing a lot of this stuff as part of the capital plan. If we didn't have that, we would probably be asking for more money to be doing these things. We don't typically do forced rotations like a lot of companies do, where they say every 5 years we're going to replace PCs or printers. That we just try to get as long as we can out of stuff. Servers and storage, things like that too, tend to refresh a lot quicker than normal. But we do, if we did a forced rotation every 10 years, it would be probably about 800,000 a year that we would need to replace all of our equipment once every 10 years. So I think we'd probably be asking for more if it weren't for the capital plan that we're in. And everything's coming up on 5 years old now that we started. The PCs we bought in 2017, we replaced all of the PCs in the branches as part of the capital plan. And a lot of the laptops, but not all of them. And a lot of that stuff's coming up on 5 years old now. So they're going to start to kind of work into a rotation where we're going to need to do some stuff with them. Now, we thankfully, the IT manager then, Rolo Aguilera, did a really smart thing. He told Dell, he said, I have this much money and I need this many PCs and laptops, and they just made it work. So we got really, really good PCs and really good laptops. So talking with our current IT manager, Alan Chapin, there's no reason why we shouldn't get 2 or 3 more years out of these PCs pretty easily.
What version of Microsoft are we running on them?
So there's still Windows 10. And we know we got a couple of years to get off of Windows 10. So, and then Office is part of the 365 plan that we have. And so that just stays current all the time now. So that just refreshes as it updates. So, but yeah, we're still running Windows 10 on all of our desktops.
To piggyback on that. From my understanding, Microsoft hasn't made it real easy to migrate from 10 to 11.
We would just do like an image and just re-image all the PCs at one time. It would just be a mass change when we do it.
Okay.
So it would mean going around and touching every single PC that we have. One of the things that hasn't worked so well is the upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11. That's what doesn't work so well. But we would just sit one of the PCs down, put Windows 11 on it, fresh, make an image of it, and then just go around and re-image all the PCs with one hit.
You upgraded to 11 first and then.
Yeah,
So are our,
we're all licensed for Windows 11. We can do it whenever we can do it. So.
and most of the ones that you've upgraded to 5 years ago will support 11?
Yep, just fine. They have all the TPM stuff and all the security chips in them and everything, so they'll do it just fine.
What are our oldest computers? I know you have some. Was everything replaced in 2017, or do we still have some? I know you said that some were not, like some of the laptops.
Laptops are the oldest ones. So we've got probably, let me bring that up because I'm glad you asked that because I was ready for that.
Okay, good.
So we've got about 290 laptops that could really stand to be replaced right now. They're either old or very old. And so those are ones that didn't get replaced during the capital.
So we've kind of been holding off on those, trying to keep that safety net. And,
Yes.
and this budget cut would kind of force our hand, right? We would have to do it sooner than later, correct?
Yeah.
Because we have the money, and if we don't, if we're gonna cut it. And that's what my concern is if we cut this budget, technology is something that's constantly changing.
Mhm.
Whereas, if I say, this is my budget and this is what I'm gonna do, there are a lot of things that we cannot predict. And technology changes. I mean, if Windows announces that we're no longer supporting 10, then we have a huge budget hit that we were not planning for.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the things that we as a committee have to be very aware of is that technology is constantly changing. And maybe somebody in finance doesn't understand that technology change. So I want to make sure that we're very clear on the presentation is that we have to have some safety nets built in here because we don't control Microsoft. We don't control Azure. I know we've got some things in the cloud. We don't control all of those things. And if they make a change, it dictates a lot of things for us. So I appreciate you bringing that.
I mean, we would be fine if the money was the budget cut was going into a general contingency fund, and we would have to maybe pull from the contingency fund to do some of these. And but some of these things, like the what am I trying to say?
Facilities?
No, the generator.
Generator.
I
Pointing out the window and
was pointing at it. I was.
Yeah.
Trash bins.
It's a generator. It's a big box. So, that's one of those things that cannot be down. It just cannot be down. If it is, and the room collapses when there's a power outage, that's not good. When the data center collapses, we just cannot have that. So those things have to be fixed as soon as they happen. I mean, we have service contracts on all of our stuff, and people are coming out and constantly pulling maintenance or doing tests all the time to make sure they're okay, but things happen and sometimes these things fail.
Do we own the generator or do we lease it?
We own it. It's actually, it's about 15 years old, but it looks brand new because we've had it maintained the whole time. I mean, it literally looks like we just put it in.
What's the life of a generator?
We got probably 25 years out of the one before that. And like I said, we maintain this one. It's a big generator. It's big. And so it'll pull the room plus a whole bunch more stuff. And then we also have one at our DR site also, but it's a little bit smaller because it's just running one rack of stuff out there. And they're both diesel powered. We have maintenance contracts and support contracts on both of them. So they're supposed to show up as soon as we call. We have a company that routinely goes out and makes sure that the fuel's all topped off when it's in winter. They put the additive in it to make sure that diesel fuel doesn't gel up. That's, if you don't know about that, that's what diesel fuel does. It gels up when it gets really cold. So you have to put stuff in it. And so, yeah, we take really good care of them, because that piece has to work. It just has to work when we need it.
And Brian mentioned a contingency fund, and even if there is a general contingency fund, it's got to be one that we don't have to get permission from the board every time we need to spend out of it, because if a server were go down, if the generator would go down, we can't wait until board meeting to get permission to replace it. You know, it's like when the at MGC a month or so ago, when that storm came through and blew the electrical panel and the whole building went down, you know, we needed to fix that now. We couldn't wait until board meeting to get permission to fix the panel to get the building back up and running. So a contingency line is good as long as we can spend out of it as we need to and not have to get permission before we can spend out of it, if that makes sense.
It's 500 laptops, and we know, you know, sure, we can come to the board and ask, we can ask for that. We have no problem doing that at all.
So we have some cushion, but I wonder, I can't think of the name of it. It's where like you need a new roof and you plan, okay, this is how much a new roof is going to cost at today's price. And we're setting aside this money. We're doing that, right? Is that part of what those funds are, or we have a separate fund for that?
No, it's just that's just an annual thing. There's not building like a savings account to do this stuff.
So what I'm wondering is maybe for the finance committee that maybe we need to present it as, if a generator costs, I have no idea how much a generator costs.
$75,000.
Okay, so if it costs $75,000, then we should always have a $75,000 in case of an emergency fund, right? I mean, that's what, as a good business, right? I plan ahead. And if I have a generator go out and I don't have the funds to buy a new generator, then the library is shut down because we don't have this fund. So
the building committee is putting together a maintenance budget line that we can keep filling to fund future maintenance. And part of that could be part of that as well. It's just not really in the proposed budget that's coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just go ahead.
Michael, I just echo what Joycelyn says, as part of the building committee. So we're working on that fund, and you know, we could place this in, you know, in that general maintenance fund, like, because the generator is like the heartbeat of the whole. Whole thing.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, you gotta have it. So yeah.
So
Yeah,
that would be great. And
I'm sorry.
no,
I just want to ask, are those type of contingency funds? I mean, you have them listed as line items, but maybe it's not listed. Like we have a contingent. So it's like the not the scholarship fund, the grant fund. Like that is something that would be almost a separate. Do we need to separate that out if there's a technology grant? That would be something, because do we need a 50,000 every year, I think is what, or do we have just 150,000 set aside?
You mean for the grant matching?
Yeah.
We don't know from year to year what grants are going to be available.
Okay.
So, and typically state library grants are 25% match. And we can write them for, you know, any dollar amount. I mean, we can write a $5,000 technology grant and we have to have, you know, what is that, 1250?
Yeah.
That amount, or for example, the AWE, the early learning computers that are in the branches now need to be replaced. Well, that's going to cost, you know, $100,000 to replace all of them. So we're going to need, you know, $25,000 as a match. But if we can get that funded through the state library, now there may be other options for that. Some, you know, Dollar General sometimes gives us grant money, Target sometimes gives us grant money, things like that. And they may not be that large. And sometimes they require a match and sometimes they don't. But we have just a solid amount in there, knowing that if we find a grant that we need, we've got $50,000 to help match that. And if we use it all, fabulous. That's a great use of, I think, a great use of public money. And if we don't, that's okay. Then it might be used in, you know, something else that we didn't know we needed. You know, suddenly we have 350 laptops we have to replace, not 290. Then there's that extra money in there. It's still the same line item in the budget. It just might not be the sub line in the budget. That makes sense.
Yeah, grant matching funds is a great way to leverage taxpayer dollars with federal funds. and-
Doubling them.
And yeah,
Doubling our money.
yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else? Michael, do you have anything else that you want to discuss with the budget amendment or?
No, not that I can think of, but this is a key issue right here.
Right. Well, technology, the thing about technology is it's unpredictable in the fact that if we're not prepared for it, or with inflation coming and a PC now costs $2,000, if we're seeing like groceries, if a
Yeah.
PC now costs $2,000 in the next 6 months, it could be $4,000. I mean,
Right.
we're seeing some of that happen with a lot of different things like lumber, with, groceries themselves. It's like, a box of macaroni and cheese was 39 cents. Now it's 79. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's double.
Yeah.
And if we're seeing those technology things double in price, which technology is something that, everybody needs. So iPhones are super expensive, and so we're seeing that. So I think cutting the technology budget is really restricting the heart of the library, because we are a technology advanced library. And we rely very heavily on our, we don't have the card catalog with the Dewey Decimal and we're having to flip through. I mean,
Been a long time.
we can search for a book immediately online, And so if we were a outdated library, we might be able to cut technology and saying that's where we are, we're stuck in this. But we are a futuristic library of the future, and we want to be that example. And I think by cutting technology, it's really going to hurt our library. So I think that's what we will present to the board tomorrow, is that our library is very important and our technology is unpredictable. And by cutting our budget for the technology, I think it would really hurt our library. And the other thing I'm going to say is, we don't have people here saying, you're wasting money, right? I don't have people at this, we've got plenty of space here for extra people that are, Cody, do we have any guests?
Lori, we do not have any guests on the Zoom meeting, but they might be watching online,
okay.
which
Okay,
means they
that's-
just aren't able to interact with us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We do have a few watching right now.
Okay, good. That's very helpful. And so, Teresa, I haven't seen any letters from people that have said that they're concerned.
We do run the budget
Pretty tight.
really tight. We do. I mean, and my managers and the folks who help us put this stuff together, they're super conscious of this stuff. They don't want to waste anybody's money. They don't want to, take advantage of the taxpayers or do anything like that. They're super conscious of this. And so we do run the budget pretty lean. We really do.
Right. Well, and you have people that are using our services. They're using our Wi-Fi. They're using our systems to come in and to do that. We're supporting our community probably from a technology side more than even book side, right? Because technology gives those people access to things like even the little Wi-Fi boxes that we were checking out, and the laptops that we can check out, and the different things that we can check out. And I think that maybe from a technology side, maybe we need to just reiterate how many people are using the technology of the library. And if we cut that off, we lose our advantage of being, what are we ranked, like 4th in the nation?
We're in the top 25.
Okay, top
Yeah,
25.
Yeah,
But
but large,
That's some big libraries.
large
Bigger
libraries.
than us. That's,
Yes, much bigger.
I mean,
that's New
we're
York.
the largest public library in the state of Missouri, so.
Right.
Right.
We're also in the top 5 or 3 in interlibrary loans. So if our technology goes down, it affects the country,
Right.
both in borrowing and in lending.
Right.
So it's
We support
the other
staff. We support a lot of
yeah.
folks. So
We support a lot of smaller libraries in this state, in other ways. Also, a lot of people say, well, it's bad times, let's save the money, but those are precisely the times when the library is a crucial partner. If I can't pay my Wi-Fi bill, I can go to the library. If I can't afford, my kid's laptop dies and he's doing virtual learning. I need to be able to access and check out a library. So for me, the argument that it's bad times, so spend less, it's precisely those times when people depend on a library more. And the other issue for me too is if we have more assessment, is there some of that assessment that will increase due to old cars going for more and buildings and property costing more? Part of that is the increase in population. And so we're going to have to serve more people. And so we need those funds to match demand.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that we can present to people that if any of the departments within the library, I think that technology is something that, number one, it's the most unpredictable, but it's also, like you said, you hit a very key point. When people are losing their jobs, they can't pay their Wi-Fi, they can't own the internet that they need, and they rely on us. And so we may have to do a shift from having, like, if our economy continues, we're talking about, recession, we're talking about, we don't know what the future holds. What if we go into a depression and then everybody's needing that and we don't have the funds to come up and pull these Wi-Fi spots because we can't afford that? I just want to make sure that we aren't, if we cut a budget, okay, if we cut that budget and we go back to the taxpayers and say, you're overpaying us, and then we come back and we say to those same taxpayers, wait, we didn't think futuristic enough and we were too optimistic, and now we're going back and we need more of your money, but they don't have money to give, right?
Right.
They don't have that money to give, and because we weren't prepared and preparing for what's coming forward, I think that it would be very detrimental to our library to cut the technology budget. And I want to definitely go on record saying I think that it's a very poor idea.
Appreciate that.
So one other comment, just I think we shouldn't forget that we receive tax dollars. So people don't have jobs, they don't pay their taxes, and that all ends up coming back to us at some point in time as funds not coming in. And so I'm not advocating cutting the technology budget. I'm just saying we really need to be mindful of that too. So.
Right. So you're saying that, like, in the future, if they can't pay their money to Clay County or Jackson County, then we're going to get less money and we're going to have to cut, right? If they can't pay their taxes.
I'm just saying, let's be realistic about the way we're thinking. And again, I'm not, and I appreciate all the work you guys do. I'm not opposed to all of that. You guys have done a marvelous job, I believe, in presenting the budget you have and the way you've used the money. I applaud you, for the way you've done that and just the way you orchestrate everything. And so, but I just want to be mindful of, we function on tax dollars, tax revenue coming in. So if people are losing jobs and on and on and on, then that's going to affect us too.
Right. So Michael, for what you're saying, by cutting our budget, then we're not going to be prepared when those people lose their jobs and they can't pay their taxes, and they're going to rely heavily on the technology of the library because maybe they can't support themselves.
Yeah, but I'm also saying that will affect all of the libraries as well. Yes, they'll want to come to the library, but if we don't have funds coming in to support what we're doing, it can create a really bad scenario for all of us too.
Right.
So, anyway,
so are you saying you think we should?
No, I'm not saying to cut the budget. I'm just saying, let's be realistic about what we're thinking of the chain of events.
Right.
We need to keep technology going. Yes, I agree with all that. But also, if we go into a severe depression or recession, then that is going to influence people being even able to pay their taxes. I can't
Right.
predict that. We can't predict that. So again, I'm not saying cut the budget. I just want to make sure we're being realistic about all that. So, and I'm not
Well, I
saying
mean-
we're not. So,
But I mean, just like what happened during the pandemic, we couldn't predict a pandemic, right? We didn't know the libraries were going to be shut down for
Right.
months. And I think that if we go into a depression, we may have to revisit. And, that's why we have these meetings, is because we
No, I
can't predict
agree.
the future. So I think that for this year, right, this is what this year is. And the budget that we
Right.
have asked for this year is
Right.
to get us through this next 12 months. Now it's 9 months, or I mean,
Yeah.
what-
That's not
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
and so what we have to do is the budget that we have now. So what I'm saying is, and I hope that when we talk to the finance committee tomorrow, that we can just say, if this budget is for this term, if we cut this budget now, or even for next year, then we are kind of tying our hands behind our back saying, oh my gosh, we might be going into a severe recession and then possibly a depression. And I think by acting now and cutting budget is too early in the process. I say, give us 9 months and look at our budget again. That's why we revisit it yearly. In 9 months, when we look at it again and saying, are we going into a recession? Are we going into what's, after so many months, it becomes a depression? So if we're headed that direction, I think that preparing and storing up our grain for that 7 years of famine is maybe what we need to be looking at here. And I think we need the wisdom that each of us has to say, okay, what do you do whenever you think that a famine or something is coming, is you store up. And I think that cutting a budget during this time is very unwise. And so I appreciate your words, Michael, because it is very true. We've got to think that, yes, the future may hold that people can't pay their taxes. And then we say, well, we have enough to maintain if we do this, if we do this, if we do this, because we were wise in what we were doing right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the building committee
Mhm.
and doing that, because that's, we have a massive infrastructure to take care of. So,
People
yeah,
depend on.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just, it sounds selfish for me to go, I need all the tech money I can get, but we also have buildings, we also have grounds and maintenance, we have delivery sort, we have all these things that we do, and it's a massive infrastructure that we have to take care of. So, and you have to kind of prioritize where you do things. So, but I just wanted to bring that up and let you know what was suggested from the finance committee and what the things we were looking at, how that would affect us if something were to happen there. And like Michael says, we may have to make, some tough choices down the road at some point. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that's kind of where we were and kind of what we have to support out there. Because we don't talk about that very often. We know we have tons of technology and we have all this stuff, but we don't, it's just part of what we do. It's like what you said, Lori, it's just who we are. And we just kind of accept that's how we are. But I just kind of want to talk about that for a few minutes. So.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion that we have, or can we move on to the next line item? Do we need to vote to move on, or can we just?
Nope,
move
you
on?
can just move on.
Okay,
It's
thank
not a
you.
vote. It was a discussion item. It's a discussion item.
I don't know. There's so many rules.
Yep.
Okay, so for the security awareness training, I know that you and I spoke a little bit about this. Do you want to take that over too?
Yeah, sure. So this is, I thought I had this in the budget and I did not have it in the budget. And so a couple of years ago, we took all staff through some security awareness training, and it's just some basic training on how to avoid general phishing attempts. We are going to do another massive phishing campaign to help staff, but just password protection, not sharing sensitive information, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just about 15 modules that we send them through. And we require it of all staff members. It'd be a mandatory training. And since I didn't have it budgeted, I just want to get your approval to actually do that. And that fight, it's about $4,980 or something like that. And it covers 1,200 staff. So it more than covers all of our staff that we have. And that would come out of that miscellaneous software line in the IT budget, since it's not actually in the budget. is what we would take it out of.
Right, so just for the recording, I was telling Brian that, like, I work for a software company and security training is like one of the most important things, especially if there was a breach of data or if somebody clicked on something and then we're paying ransomware fees because if somebody took over the library system, we cannot prepare for that. It's, you know, we can teach people, don't click on this, don't click on this, don't click on this. But sometimes it looks so official that they click on it. Maybe it looks like it comes from Workday or it looks like it comes from your HR department and it has your logo and it has somebody's name on it. And there are different types of phishing that people are doing. And maybe they give you something free. Hey, if you do this, we'll fill this out. And they click on it. And once they do that, we have ransomware. And I know that do we have insurance for ransomware?
We do.
Yes.
Okay, good. I thought we did. I just want to
We
reiterate
also
that.
have our systems pretty locked down too. so
Yeah,
it's
well,
helpful.
we have the
Annual testing, and we do an annual review, and so we have several other things that we do. This is just staff training on how to be safe and how to
Secure the human.
Yes.
secure the human. I love that. I love that because
That's what it's called, securing the human.
Because in my company, they're constantly sending us emails that are phishing emails, or they're trying to get you to click on it. And if you report it as phishing, they say, you did the right thing.
We're going to do that as well.
Yeah.
And that's part of the Microsoft product, but we're going to do that also. So we're going to kind of hit them on two fronts. So, yes. Yeah. So
Michael, did you say something? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought.
that's all we wanted is just, you know, and we know it's got to go to the full board, but we just wanted to,
Right.
if it wasn't budgeted. So
then do we make a recommendation?
Yeah, you need a motion to take it to the full board, and the motion is on the board.
Okay,
We need a motion, a second, and a vote, and then tomorrow night, it'll be under your report as a voting item, and we take it to the full board and we do this. It doesn't have to have a second tomorrow night because it's coming out of committee, but it'll come up for discussion and then the full board will vote on whether or not to spend the money.
I'll make the motion to approve approval of the recommendation of full board for staff to conduct online security training for all staff not to exceed $5,000.
I second it. It's Michael.
okay, then do we need to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, all those in favor of approval of the recommendation to the full board for staff to conduct online security training for all staff not to exceed $5,000. If you approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Any abstaining? Okay, so we will present this to the board tomorrow night.
well, thank you. Next year it will be in the budget. I went to renew it and I was like, oh, it's not in the budget. So I had to tell Susan, we probably need to make sure that's okay. So,
Okay, and so then the public PC software change, you want to talk about that?
right. So we currently use Citrix and we virtualize all of our public PCs. That's getting harder and harder to actually do. It doesn't want to work with with a lot of the Windows 10 security stuff. And we just have a lot of problems with it in general and a lot of the printing that we do it. So we want to change it to another set of software. It's from a company called Phoronix. They have a product called Deep Freeze, and we've used it for years and years just to freeze laptops. What it does is it freezes a PC at a moment in time. So you can use it and make changes to it as soon as it reboots. It's like it's a brand new PC. And so that's what we historically used on all the public PCs was that software. And we'd like to go back to that. And so we've already paid the Citrix because we've got to make the change mid-year. And so that's what we're asking for is the ability to change software. And we already license it. So we don't actually, all this is going to do is just increase the number of licenses that we have to cover all of the public PCs.
And so Citrix is not working for you?
Yeah, it's not working great. We have a lot of print stuff on there that allows the customers to come in and print.
Like the days and stuff?
Yeah, and we have, and that prints to kiosk, and we have the controlling software on there that controls time limits and age verification, all of those types of things when people sign in. And that's really starting to conflict horribly for us, and we have lots of problems with it. We want to make it so they're up more for people that actually work instead of tinkering with it all the time. And now I've got a lot of really smart people, and they have all the stuff set up so that the deep freeze at night can turn itself off. We can run Windows updates and then it will turn itself right back on again. So the stuff will stay up to date and stay working, and all the security patches. So we don't really need the Citrix stuff. This will actually be easier for us in the long run to do it this way, and cheaper to do it this way. So
It's two things. One is if the printers aren't working, we're not serving people who need things in a hurry.
Yeah.
And two, one beautiful thing about the deep freeze, because we had talked about this a long time ago, is it not only protects the library when people put their little jump drives in, but it protects everybody's little jump drive when they go home. So it's a really neat way to it not only provide better service, but to insulate both the library and our customers from.
Citrix does that also.
Yeah.
In between each session with Citrix, when you click done on your session, it basically destroys that whole thing and builds another one in its place. So they're basically brand new every single time. And that is something I will hang my hat on every day, that I want management here to know, like Susan and everybody else, is that between each session, everything that you just did is destroyed.
Yep.
It's like we picked that PC up and threw it out and set a brand new one in its place every single time. And that's super important to me because I want people to feel safe about coming in and using our devices and not leaving personal information sitting around on them. So I won't live any other way if we can't have the ability to do that, because I just want people to feel super safe coming in and using our stuff. Our laptops are all the same way. Everything's the same way.
All the public computers.
So do you have some software that's running this? Is that why you know it works better than Citrix to print and stuff?
Yeah, we still use it on some of our laptops. And like I said, we've used it in the past to control the public PCs, and it always worked fantastic. We just didn't want to go around and touch all the PCs to update them all the time. But now with the software, it can actually turn itself off. We can run Windows updates and it can basically turn itself back on again. And we don't have to go around and touch them all anymore. So.
But you're doing that currently with Citrix, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a gold image in here. And so you update the image and then you shut the pool down and you restart it and all of them get the new version again. So,
but you're just saying, I mean, because Citrix is such a well-used program that it surprises me that we would go back to a different program.
It just has a lot. We wanted to virtualize our staff machines all along with Citrix, but it conflicts with like our RFID stations and our receipt printers and a lot of our printing stuff that we have to do. And it's starting to turn into the same thing with our public PCs. It's all this software for controlling time limits and printing and everything they're just not working very well together anymore.
But you've tested the new software on some other ones and making sure that it doesn't have those limitations?
Yep, works perfect. So absolutely no problems. So that's kind of our recommendation, is that we roll over to that new software and kind of get the PC stabilized for people. And again, this number would come out of that software line that we have in the budget. So.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approval of the recommendations of the full board to change software and software vendors to maintain the public computers and or PCs not to exceed $12,000. Those people online not watching the screen.
Yeah.
Michael, is there a second to the motion?
Yes, yeah, I'll second.
Okay, then it has been motioned that we have a vote. All those in favor of approval of the recommendation to the board to change software and software vendors to maintain the public computers and PCs not to exceed $12,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Michael, I didn't give you enough time. That was a yes, correct?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, sorry about that. All those opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, our other business, we'll talk about the 3D printers and the RFQ self-check station pricing.
Yeah, so the 3D printers, I worked on kind of just like a big list of what we might be looking for on that. And so when I got to thinking about it, it's about a lot more than just buying a 3D printer and putting it out. That's easy for us to do. So we have a group of managers and associate directors that run our branches that get together. We call them the tactical team. And they meet, is it monthly or every 2 weeks? It's like every 2 weeks.
Monthly. I don't think they meet every 2 weeks.
So anyway, I kind of put together all of these thoughts that I had on it about policies, about who are we going to target, how are we going to measure success, what kind of furniture they may need, all of that kind of stuff. And I've turned it over to them, and they are going to work up a proposal for us. And so it'll have where they will go, how many,
Estimated cost,
cost,
estimate, yeah.
yeah, any staff training that we need, any of that kind of stuff. So they're going to kind of work on that for me as we get into the end of the year.
There's ongoing expenses
Yeah.
for like the plastic and stuff, but one of the, and definitely make sure that you get some of them that have resin, make sure that they're not doing resin because it has to be
Yeah,
ventilated.
PLA, I
Right.
think
We definitely don't want to poison any
Yeah,
kids. So
yeah.
I have both at my house, and we have one that's like
They have
outside.
environmental concerns in there, and they have
Yeah.
Good, because that's, I mean, that's very important for when you're having kids, but also the training things, like even if a kid was in here and we had enough, I'm not saying we have to use this room, but I mean, something similar where a station could be, you definitely need, it's easy to mess up a 3D print until you get it exactly right.
Right,
And so,
Leveled and all.
and moving the printers, they get out of line. So I definitely, but this is where my heart is because I really believe that there's people building houses with this. 3D printing is like the wave of the future, and especially for people to see. I mean, there's I wish I would have it in my purse, but my son is like, Mom, you read all the time. I made you this thing, and you put your thumb in it, and it holds your book open, and he prints it on his 3D printer, because he's like,
This is an Etsy stop for him.
he's like, oh, Mom, I took care of you. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know there's something like this that existed. And that's what I'm saying is I want all kids to be able to have that. And even if it's traveling, that they take them with them and they use them, but like camps in the summer, I mean, it is really the wave of the future. And I know that like in the North Kansas City School District, their gifted programs, they have the kids that can go there and do that, but not every kid gets that opportunity.
Mhm.
And so we want to make sure that as a library, if we have opportunity stations for kids to get their hands on 3D printing and try it, just like they have at Union Station, they can send the print jobs there and then pick them up.
Right.
And then
That's a lot of library systems do that. Like some of them, there's a few that won't let people print to them because they'll print for them, but I don't think that would be our model. But they do have forms online. You can send a 3D print job and the staff can print it, or do we charge? Do we not charge? How much do we charge? Do we do the supplies, or do people bring in their own supplies? There's just a whole bunch of things that we'd have to figure out.
well, the plastic is not very expensive. I mean, you can buy it online at big spools, but to have like a camp, like if a kid came to a camp,
sure.
people paid $20 to leave with a few projects, but there's a lot of things. We've made jewelry with plastic. We've made all kinds of things. So this is definitely where my heart is. And I'm glad to hear that you've got that committee looking into that.
Yeah, they're pretty thorough, and they're the ones who are maintaining the branches, and they know staff capacity, and they'll do the target research and where we should put them. And
I'll look forward to hearing.
So,
that
yeah.
report.
so it should be pretty good. So anyway, I'm gonna let you know that that's definitely moving.
Excellent.
So
What about the RFQ self-check station?
I have a
sorry, go
question before
Yeah.
we move on, is that, anyway, I'm not the most techno savvy guy on the planet, I'll admit that, but I guess my question is, why would we need a 3D printer? So you're probably gonna have to explain that
Sure. So
some
Michael,
point.
let me just give you an idea. So right now, 3D printers, like they're doing prosthesis, like they're making arms and legs, and they're doing all kinds of things with this plastic. They actually just printed a piece for a heart valve. And so kind of the next wave of the future is all of you're seeing, like I told you, they're using blocks that they printed on 3D printers to build houses. They just built a complete house out of 3D printing blocks. These kids, a kid just printed like they're printing things for blind people. They're doing all of these different things. So it's just a next level of technology. I mean, it's not next level because it's in the present, but where a piece of regular printer is like, it could print on paper and you can put a vision. in a 3D printer, it can make your vision come to life. It can make it into a usable thing. And we would have to have rules and policies about, weapons and
Oh, sure.
like all of those type of things that we would want to make sure that we have safety things in place that we would have. Absolutely, you may not print this here, but it's definitely the wave of the future for kids and adults, even on how to make some really cool things.
Just to piggyback on what Lori's saying, even to take it back to a basic level, in order to even use a 3D printer, you've got to practice your math skills. You've got to practice your skills in imagining things in a 3D space. You have to utilize some drawing skills and some rotating in space, in your mind. These are basic CAD, STEM type of things that will correlate to classroom work and get kids excited about utilizing math and science in everyday life.
So Michael, I'll just give you an example. My son was in a gifted program through the North Kansas City School District, and they had him, design something you see a need, you're going to design something for it. And he designed these Braille squares on top of a Rubik's Cube so that someone blind could use it, and the school used it for their blind students. And it was something simple, but by just adding that and showing that that's like one of the colors, some kids got to, learn how to do a Rubik's Cube for visually impaired. So it's just little things that as adults, maybe we can't think of ourselves, but that kids have that ability to think of. And I know Union Station has had a really successful, at their Science City, has had a really successful 3D printing room for kids to design things. And that's something that I definitely want your technology committee to reach out to them and see what's worked and what hasn't, and maybe what their rules are, because maybe they've already got some groundwork that we can.
They do. Johnson County will too, because they've got a whole makerspace. And Michael, the other thing too is like robotics teams.
Yes.
They will design for their competitions every year. And I can speak to this just because my daughter was on a robotics team granted several years ago, but they would design their robots, and then they can actually design the pieces of that robot and then put them together. So there's a lot of other skills, a lot of engineering involved, a lot of math, a lot of tinkering. Does this work? Does this not work? What material works? What doesn't work? And teamwork, because they have to work together in order to make that robot work. So, teamwork is probably an extension of the 3D printer. It isn't the actual day-to-day, because you can design on a 3D printer and not talk to anybody if you want to, but there are other capacities to that as well.
Yeah, we could have our own robotics team.
Yes, we could.
We could have our own robotics team. That would be even cooler technology.
I think the issue as to why should the library engage in this, it's all about access.
Yeah.
Printing things is fairly cheap, but getting set up to do so and having the training is where a lot of kids are not participating in that. So this is providing access so that, people can be part of the experience and part of the learning and part of the conversation around 3D printing.
And Michael, just to give you an idea, like we just bought a 3D printer for our son. It was $300.
Yeah.
So one printer is $300. So, and then the resin for it was like $50. So $350 for this unit. And he's played around with, making little characters and making all kinds of things for it. And not every family can afford a $350 printer to play around with. But that's why we want to have these available, because if schools are doing it, Science City's doing it, then Johnson County Library they have a whole maker space for kids.
Kansas City Public does too.
Kansas City Public does as well. I didn't know that, but that's why we just want to have our library be one of the ones that people are looking to us and saying, hey, is this available in the Mid-Continent Public Library? And currently it is not.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I'm asking the question is because I know there's a lot of people, I don't know if a lot's the right word, but there's people on the board that are going to need an explanation
Sure.
about 3D printers, and it's going to be up to us to give them that explanation and unpack what you just did. So
Sure.
I can understand it, we can understand it, and I appreciate that, so Like I said, I'm not the most tech savvy person on the planet. And, but it's, technology is advancing so rapidly. It's amazing.
It is. My son just did a book report for his school project at the end of his 8th grade year. And he was doing this book report and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I read this book and there was this mythological ship and this big creature. So I 3D printed them. And he shows me these two things and he goes, this is my book report. It was a 3D printed,
wow.
it was a 3D printed like a worm type of thing and this ship. And that's what he did his presentation for the school. So he had things to pass around and stuff. So it's like, I don't even think like that, right? As an adult, maybe I haven't even, I'm like, I've never even thought that you could do a book report by printing something. But that's why I think giving kids and adults, of course, the opportunity to touch these things, especially when our library is, one of the leading libraries, we have to look for ways that are things that we want kids to be able to say, hey, I can go to the library and print that. So, and I think it should be free.
Okay.
Next one, you want to move on to the RFQ?
Sure. One of the things that we talked about several times is the need to probably replace our self-check units. They've been in service since 2013, and they've worked very, very well, I might add. But they are getting dated. We can't update the software on them anymore. We can't put new PCs in them or anything like that anymore because all the new software style monitors. So we're probably going to need to replace them. So one of the things I wanted to do is do an RFQ, which is just a request for quote. We're not going to pick a vendor or sign a contract for new ones. This is basically just a process to get budgetary numbers on how much this is going to cost to do it. And then I'll report that back to this committee. And so we can have a budgetary number. The RFQ is written. I need to have some people review it for me. And then probably around the 1st of October, I'm gonna put that out for people to kind of bid on and let me know what we can do budget wise. They are very expensive. We have about 119 of them. And it'll probably be around $1 million to replace them, to do all of them. So they're.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Yep.
Piggybacking on what Michael was saying, what would be helpful is maybe some kind of putting it in context. Why are we spending $1 million to have people check out stuff? Well, if we didn't spend $1 million on this, what would be the staff costs to stand there and check books out for people rather than being out helping people?
Yeah, that's the reason why we have them. So
that tidbit of information may be helpful.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and maybe could we do with less? Could we try only bidding? I mean, like, this is a spot for me that I feel like we could cut here because like at the Woodneath Library, I was just telling him there's like, I don't know how many of them that they're there, but a lot of the times they're not working. So then we're pulling 2 or 3 staff members to try and help everybody getting them to work. And then they end up doing that. So
I'm not sure why those aren't working and I'll find out. So,
I'm just saying that if we're pulling staff members anyway, and we have these things, the other thing I want to make sure that you're including in your quote is the recycling of these.
Yes.
What's going to
yeah,
happen to these other
absolutely,
ones, and are we going to get
It's
credit
in
back?
there.
It's already there.
Okay, good. So they're gonna, because we
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, we should be able to sell
Yeah.
some of these units to older libraries. If we can't update the software, they can, at least we're using them.
some of these companies will just take them and recycle them.
That's what
And it'll be,
Taking and recycling is not a financially wise thing. So that's why I'm saying is if they could be sold through a broker, or if the company that's doing the quote can give us a quote on paying us back for them. I don't think we should just say, oh, you can have these
oh no,
because
no.
these are worth money.
I wouldn't just give them away. No, part of the RFQ is like, what will you pay us to take these off of our hands?
Okay.
If they wanted to do that, yeah, absolutely, I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
But if we can't do it through the company that would take those, then we have to figure out what to do with 120 of these while we're waiting to do something with them. So
how many libraries do we have? How many buildings?
31 now.
Oh, there's more.
33.
So not every
33.
library has one.
Every library has self.
Has
Not all of them, not all of them.
All of them?
The North Platte location.
Yeah, there's about 7 or 8 that don't.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why we don't do part is because people go between our libraries, our branches a lot, and we want them to have a consistent experience when they go between the two. So we definitely don't want 2 different kinds in one building.
Oh, no. I was just saying.
And we don't want them to have to go to another facility like the Lease Summits. If I was really gonna do it and do part of them, the Lease Summits would probably all have to be the same because people bounce between those branches a lot. We want them to have the same experience when they come out. The other thing that's all possible now is there's hardware as a service. And so it's basically you just lease them. And so you'd lease them for like 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, you'd get new ones, but you'd just constantly be in it. But we could do that, and that would spread the cost out over time, and you wouldn't have to come up with it all. And that's part of the RFQ also, the options we have for purchasing or leasing, so.
Keep in mind, these don't just check books out, they accept late fees, they, you do so much with them.
Okay,
That
Check
frees
in,
up
check
staff.
out.
so here's my next question that you may need to take to your committee that's meeting is why do we need self-checkout in the era of the iPhone? I mean, we're talking, I can Apple Pay at McDonald's with my phone. I can do things. Why can't I check out a book with, it would be so much easier for me to be like, okay, it's already stored in here, click. All right, I've saved it, or I can pay for my fine. Do we need $1 million worth of hardware in a technology savvy world where almost 90% of the people have an iPhone?
Most places, so one of the problems with phones are, since we use RFID, it will not disable the security on the RFID chips. So they would still have to go to a pad someplace and move their books over it to disable the security on them. The phones are not able to do that right now. They can do the checkout, but they can't actually disable the security chip on them. So when they go through the gates, it would set the gates off every single time.
And the cost savings on the RFID is significant because you can check out a whole line of books at one time.
Yeah, but that's the case is what there's software. There has to be software that would have an RFID pad that I could show my iPhone and say, these are the books I checked out, disable them, boom,
I'm not saying you can do that. It doesn't disable the security on the RFID chips.
But I'm saying we could have an RFID pad that would go active when I scanned it to a scanner that says, yes, you've checked out these books. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and disable these books. And then boom.
There is that.
And so that, I think that we absolutely need to look into that, because let's talk about technology, right? We want to make use of our technology. And if we can save $1 million
Oh, man, yeah.
to do it from my phone.
So you could go around the stacks and check books out via the NFC scanner on a phone. But then you're still going to have to take them to a pad someplace.
But Brian, what I'm
Turn
saying
off the
to you is,
security.
instead of having $1 million worth of self-checkout station, let's have one pad that's an RFID pad that has a scanner attached to it that I can scan my phone just like I do at McDonald's to buy food. I can put my books there. I can check them out. I can walk through the scanner. It has RFID decoded them. I mean, I can do a lot with that without having to put in my code every single time. I mean, from an IT perspective, we don't want to be stuck in an old school saying I have to have this RFQ self-check station in the library where I have 5 of them, when every single person that walks in has a phone that can do what those are doing. I'm going to save $1 million. And maybe it cost me $50,000 to have that RFID scanner with a scan pad. I'm just saying, let's not stay in the past if we don't have to.
It's just training the public on everyone who comes in to use this instead of the other.
How hard was it to change McDonald's? Here, people are there,
Yeah.
right?
Keep in
And if
mind
we
too,
tell them that the younger people will do it regardless, you won't have to worry about them. Older
I'm
people,
mostly concerned about those under 10, not all of them have phones. We used to do it when we had before RFID, I used to be able to go in and check it out by the phone. The issue is the pad. What you're gonna end up with, people will click on it and check it out and forget to go to the pad. So then they'll go through the thing, it'll go off, then staff is gonna have to come and show them how to do it. It's just a learning, securing a human.
It's a
part of
learning
it.
experience. I was at the library, I go to the library at Woodneath all the time, and there was an older man who tried 4 times to put his username and password in there. I was trying to help him put his username and password. I'm putting in his birth date. I'm, and he's saying his birth date as loud as he can in the whole entire library. And I'm like, trying to whisper. And then finally we had to take his books over and the lady had to check out of him.
I would just like us to keep in mind that not everybody is tech savvy and not everybody has a phone, not everybody.
And exactly, but we have these kiosks that are tech savvy, and it's just as easy for to have them at the person at the front desk to say, don't forget to scan it at that thing, as opposed to having $1 million worth of technology in that room that may not be needed.
I would like to see a cost analysis of both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna, we know the self-checks are very expensive. That's not something that's something I definitely want to put an RFQ out just so we could get an idea for what we're even looking at. I mean, the other things that we can do to save some money is all of our stations now have coin boxes and credit card terminals. We don't need to have that on every single one of them. That costs a lot of extra money. And it's also like a lot of support costs that we incur for those. So it'll probably get down to like 1 station per branch or something like that. And it'll be a different color or something. And people can go to the green one. That's the one that has the payment options on it. And so there'll be stuff like that we can do to cut into it also. But
So make sure that RFQ self-check station pricing, because those same vendors are probably the ones that sell the RFID with the scanner. That's a more convenient. And if not, I go to vendor shows all the time. I could try and
do, some do. And then you have to have, there's probably only a couple of library apps out there that will actually do the checkout. And one of them I know of is only for staff use. I'm not even sure if the customer can even do it or not. So yeah, we'll have to look at it and see. So
sounds like I may have a new job then to write my own software, because that's definitely the wave of the future. I mean, people don't want to go to, like, most people don't want to go to a tech station and have to sign in and have to put in all these things. Whereas if I have my sign on to the library on an app on my phone, that's Mid-Continent Public Library app, I go in, I click, I already have my Apple Pay, I already have my Apple set up. I click the stack of, books. If it's on an RFID thing, I should be able to click the stack of books. I should be able to click the RFID. I check them out. I mean, I don't even need a scanner. I just think the RFID would read. I think that the app could do it to read through the phone, and then it would enable the RFID chip inside of there. Boy, you've given me a good afternoon project.
Nice.
I just created an entire new software.
It's the security.
But that's the purpose of the RFID station.
And that's what like Walmart self-check stations do. That's what they all do. They're disabling security as they go through. And so, yeah, that's.
Well, just like a Walmart self-check, it could have a scanner and then an RFID place. Put it in the basket. Put it in the basket. Put it in the basket.
That's what.
Hey, that's what Walmart does. I will teach you how to check out a library book.
That's what ours do. You put all stack of books in them now, and they'll see.
Yeah, it does it now.
And you're done.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm just saying, if the librarians, the librarians
Well,
can
tell
do
you
that, and we can make
return
it
it.
where we can self-check those ourselves at a station that costs a way less than $1 million, then you look like the hero, Brian, because we just saved all of those things and made it much faster.
That's what our CERT desk is for now. I mean, so basically, yeah, it's just something. I mean, part of the thing is we wanted to have a model where people could kind of do what they want to do. If they want to go to the desk and have a person do the stuff for them, they can do it. If they want to go to a self-check. And I know the goal for a lot of library systems has been for those people that want to use their phone and just go straight to the stacks and hit the books right out of the stacks. You can do that also. So it's kind of how you want to use your library is basically what it is.
Well, I think that if we have somebody who wants to still do it old school and we have a self-checkout RFQ, then maybe we don't need 5 at the station. We make it 1 and allow people to do iPhones and then have an RFID checker.
So we have to talk.
There's a lot of different scenarios.
Saving $500,000, if we're like, hey, we just we just bumped up our technology and we saved $500,000 in the process. So I just want to make sure that that's something that we're looking at, because as I just read the book Nudge. I made it to 106, page 106 out of 366. It's a really deep book. It's a self-help book, but those 106 pages have helped me very much. But it's talking about looking for these little nudges that we can encourage people to do things that are better, that cost the library less, that we're nudging them in the right direction. And I think that having people that are already, McDonald's was, and I'm sorry, I'm using them as an example, but they were very reluctant to take credit cards in the beginning.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh, the fees are going to kill us. We don't have enough padding. And then they started taking them. And now, I was driving through, getting my kids some chicken nuggets, and we're driving through, and I'm watching everybody passing their phone. I was like, wow, technology has changed a lot right before my eyes.
With the app, you don't even have to pass your phone. They just give you a receipt. You don't have to pass your phone at all. No contact.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't made it that far yet. He has the app, so he gets all the free stuff. So, all right.
That's it for that.
All right. So do we have, Cody, any public comments?
Teresa, did you get anything?
No, I didn't get anything, not that pertains to technology.
Anybody online have any comments for the comment chat?
No, Lori, we don't have comments enabled on our live streams.
Oh,
So
okay.
we just have people who are watching.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes it faster. All right. Then is there any other business that we need to talk about? Michael, do you have anything else?
No,
Tristan, do you?
No, it's a great meeting. Thank you.
That's why I'm here in person.
Yeah, that's why I'm here in person too. Lots of
This
questions.
is an important meeting to me because, I work at a technology company. I have a degree in IT. This is what I do every day. And I want to make sure that every kid in our library system has the same opportunity. It's one of the reasons why I ran for the board, is because I wanted kids to have the same opportunity that my kid has. And my kid had such a great opportunity at the North Kansas City School District by getting to go to this lab, but it was like once a week or whatever it was that he was getting to go. And he was like, oh, it's so awesome. And I saw his excitement with that. And that's why I was like, why do we have to go to Kansas to go to their library? I didn't know Kansas City, Missouri had it, but it's like having those type of things and having technology at our fingertips for the future of our generations is very important to me. And so that's my closing comment today. And so we will have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second,
All right, then we need to vote. I guess we have to vote. No, we don't vote.
Well, usually this is the